Hi, I'm Mara with SAG Foundation, and I'm so excited today to be joined by Amy Hoggart, who has just launched her new show on True TV. It's Personal with Amy Hoggart. Thank you so much for taking the time to jump online and join us in this new normality. How has your quarantine been going so far?
Thank you for having me in my own home. It's a mix of terrifying, just from reading the news all day, and just quite cozy. Like I'm quite lucky, I think. I get on with my roommate and we have a nice place, and I think I'm quite fortunate. So yeah.
How have you been navigating the whole process? Because obviously your show just launched right in the middle of a global pandemic. So how have you been navigating launching a show in amongst that and making sure that you're still connecting to audiences, but having to think about it all in a new and different way?
It's a really good question. It launched at the end of February, so it wasn't really about the pandemic. I mean, it was already a problem. We just didn't really talk about it enough. And then last week, where I feel like things really blew up and people started staying home, we just didn't have an episode. We had a break for March Madness, and that was obviously cancelled. And that was really nice because it meant that I didn't have to think about promoting stuff. I could just really think about what was going on in the world, and most of my interactions with people on social media and stuff were about the news and like trying to see what we could do to help. And I didn't have to say, by the way, can you watch my show on True TV? So that was really good timing. And now this week I'm going to have to promote my show and think about it. And I mean, maybe I'll get back to you about whether it's a possible thing to do. I mean, I guess people need distraction and lightness, and I think it is important to be putting art out there and trying to connect, but I don't want to seem like I'm gaining from it.
Yeah. Well, there is actually such a lovely natural thread amongst all the episodes that you have, where you really are kind of diving into these deep issues, and it feels very much about finding the better version of yourself and connecting with each other. Was that a really cognitive thread that you're creating? Because that's part of why your show actually feels really important and valuable right now.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it was exactly why I wanted to do it. I wanted to help people and be funny at the same time. It was always the dual purpose. Right at the beginning, we were like, let's try and make a show that makes people like sort of just feel connected to others and understood, and how can we fuck around at the same time. Can I swear?
You can swear at the internet.
Okay. Well, I'm going to swear on top there. This is going to be so fun.
Fuck all you want.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
When you first got the show from True TV, I love the fact that there was this incredible trust in you as a performer, creator, writer, producer, because you didn't come in with the premise already baked. So how did you navigate that kind of weight and responsibility that was also coming with that element of trust from them?
Well, they wouldn't have let me make a show that was terrible. I'm guessing I try not to pitch one, but if I was like, it's, me just eating soup for half an hour, I like to think they would have blocked that. That's actually my life at the moment in quarantine. That's why I said that. So yeah, it was actually really overwhelming. And I remember feeling really grateful and then talking to a friend of mine who's a comedian called Lou Sanders. And I was saying like, I'm grateful for this, but I'm also really frustrated. I don't know what to make a show about. I feel like overwhelmed. And she was basically like, fuck you. Don't say that. Just be grateful and try and think of something. Don't feel pressured by it because it's a really nice opportunity that you've got. So just shut up. And that really helped. Honestly, every time I felt overwhelmed, I just remember Lou nicely saying, fuck you, Amy. Because I just needed a bit of time to work out what felt right for me and what I really wanted to put out there. And there's so much TV out there. I don't think anybody needed a new show, honestly. So it was just like, what can we do that's not been done before that feels right?
Yeah. I also love that coming right off the back of Full Frontal with Samantha Bee, that she's also producing the show with you. What has that mentorship and support meant to you in your career from her?
Sam, honestly, the main thing she does that helps me is when I get overwhelmed, she'll take me to a really fancy like restaurant or cafe, and she can be quite maternal. She's, not old enough to be my mum probably, but like, so that's not she might not like that, but she'll take me for a coffee or a breakfast or whatever and really like help guide me in a way that no one else can. So she is a producer, but she's also a show host who's she's the same in that we started in sketch and comedy and suddenly got into positions of authority without any experience, which is quite a big, I would say, problem in the comedy industry. Like, obviously, relatively speaking, let's not think about that as a problem that needs solving in the current climate. But like, you know, I'm just a comedian who suddenly was like at the helm of quite a big ship, and Sam really helped me with that in a really caring way, and that really helped. She also, one of the director and writers, Jodie Lennon, who worked with me, said one day I was really overwhelmed and it was quite obvious. And then I went to see Sam and I came back, and she said I walked in like I was a boss, and I wasn't aware of this. I wasn't even like trying to be a different version of myself. I just walked in and was like, right, this is what we're doing, and this is what everyone is doing to make this happen right now. And everyone was like, did you just see Sam? So that was what she gave me.
Yeah. Given that this is your first time being in that leadership position yourself and really taking the helm of a show, what were some of the important things to you in terms of how you wanted to create the overall environment and tone, not just of the show, but also with your entire staff, from your production crew to the people that were subjects on each episode?
It's a really good question. I don't think I got it right, but I know what I wanted. I wanted everybody to feel happy and supported, and feel like they were working for good people, and that they were just really respected. And that sounds really obvious, but I don't think that's always the case. And it started in the writing room. So the showrunner, Leo Allen, and I tried to create an atmosphere where all the writers felt like they could be completely loose and completely silly and say terrible, terrible ideas, and feel like, because I always just think bad ideas often lead to good ideas. So I want everyone to feel really relaxed and they can just say anything and will never say that's not funny or make any. And I know a lot of writing rooms are really intimidating. So just that was the first step, was just making everyone feel happy. And then later on, it was just checking in with people a lot. And it was a very difficult show to make. There were lots of ups and downs, and everyone was working way too hard, doing way too much in too little time. And there were so many moving pieces, and there were really stressful times. So I was constantly checking in with everyone. But I do think that I didn't get the balance right, because I'm not a very authoritative person, which you probably picked up already. And some people were like, we need you to be more decisive, and I think masculine. And I was just like, I don't want to do that. I don't know what to tell you. I wanted to be everyone's friend. And that's what Sam said. Don't do that. But yeah. I was like, I want to be friends with everyone. And it's only possible to an extent. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I knew what I wanted to do. I just don't know if I managed to do it or if it was appropriate.
Yeah. I mean, everyone has to find their own individual working style, managerial style.
Yeah.
And even just that awareness is half of the battle, it feels like.
Yeah. And I really mean when I say I have no managerial experience. Like, I've been in the arts. And before that, I was working in like a pub or a coffee shop or a clothes shop. And I was just like a perpetual student and doing, I always worked for people. I never was in charge of anyone. You would never, ever put me in charge of anyone. And so it was so random. It felt so random.
Yeah. Because you mentioned Leo Allen, your showrunner, before, I was interested in some of the elements that he brought to the show, because obviously he'd worked on Nathan For You. Yeah. So he has experience on shows that are dealing with real people as your subjects, as your interviewees. So what were some of the really valuable elements that his experience pulled in?
Well, Leo's just got the most incredible career. He's made so many amazing shows, like The Review and John Benjamin Has a Van, and like all this weird stuff, as well as Nathan. And he's just such an amazing stand-up and writer in his own right. So I would say the main thing he brought was the most clear comedy voice. I always thought of him as like in charge of tone, like his comedic tone is just always perfect. But he's also got a lot of experience working with real people in a production role. So I've got a lot of experience working with real people, but I never was producing it. So yeah, he could bring a lot of experience from Nathan, and then those other shows using real people. But he also wrote on SNL, and there was a side of, and I felt like that was kind of, that experience affected us. For instance, like one of my friends who wrote another show that I did called Almost Royal, she's called Sam Martin, and she came onto this show, And she came from England where everyone like leaves the office. I've written a show with her, and we would leave. We did 10 to 5. Then we'd just go to the pub and then like poodle home. And so we got here and everyone does like 10 till midnight. And it's, I think like, you know, I don't know if Leo would even like me saying this, but he trained like in these such crazy long writing rooms where everyone's just there forever. And us poor English women, we were just like, oh my God, my brain stops working after tea time. So I think he's just had so much experience that he brought so much in different areas.
Yeah. I also love that it sounds like you took really good care of everyone who came onto your show and agreed to be part of it, from psychologically screening everybody beforehand and having producers who were hand in hand with them. What were some of the conversations that you would have with people before they jumped into being part of an episode and that were really important for you to convey about the overall tone and approach of the show?
Wait, what do you mean with the actual people in the show?
Yeah, because obviously it's not, you know, because it's the first season, it's not something where you could just show them previous episodes and say,
oh, I see, yeah. It wasn't my job at all. I mean, I just sort of knew a lot about them, but only met them on set. But they were told different things at different points. We were worried that if they found out I was a comedian, they'd run a mile. So we would say, oh, you know, it's educational and it's very entertaining. And then we learned that no one gives a shit. They're like, there's one episode which has been out about anxiety and the client is called Gilbert. I have to say I love all of them, and we would hang out in between filming and I got to know everyone, and I've seen Gilbert since weirdly. Anyway, so we were just chatting in between takes or you can't really say that if it's in the real world, but you know, in between filming sessions. And he was like, hey, I love you on Full Frontal. I was like, what? He was like, yeah, I think you're really funny. And I was like, why have you agreed to do this show? Because I'm talking to you about your feelings. But I think people then we started telling people she's also a comedian, and everyone's like, chill, okay, we'll still do it. I think people just didn't really mind. And maybe we have an amazing team of field producers, and they're the people who connect with the clients and then guide them through the whole thing. And they said a lot to them. They're like, she's really caring and she can try and make jokes sometimes, but she wants the best for you. And I think then they just agreed to it. I don't know. I would never want to be in a show like this. So I find it hard to think why you would, but I think so many people, they all gained a lot from it. And I think it's being listened to and having fun, and they all just wanted to do it. I don't know. Mm-hmm. That's such a garbled answer. I'm so sorry. I have no idea.
It's okay. We've all been in our houses for at least a week at this point, hopefully. I also think it's so great.
Tea, by the way.
Sorry?
In an interview, can I drink tea?
Yes.
Okay.
I also think it's so great that obviously when you were doing interviews and field pieces on Full Frontal, it was very much making the interview subject the butt of the joke, but it feels like you've been very careful to pivot it the other way onto yourself. When you're in the middle of having these conversations, how did you always navigate and manage to make sure that that was always the case?
So yeah, it's a really astute observation. It was something, well, I did a show before Full Frontal called Almost Royal. And in that show, we were just meeting normal members of the American public, not like a Trump supporter or, you know, some sexist, racist person. It was just, you know, a shop owner who's chatting to us. Mm-hmm. And we learned how to make the joke always about us. From that, I was trained to always be the silly one, that I learned that the viewer wants to side with the person in it and for you and to laugh at you. And anytime you cross over, it can make people feel very uncomfortable. So that was actually something I'm quite used to doing. And that's why we really created a character for me. Like in Full Frontal, I'm just myself, or like the late night version of that. But in this show, I really am playing an exaggerated version of myself. Sometimes with traits I like to think I don't even have. And that was a way to bring comedy without really teasing them. I mean, there are moments when we're sort of laughing at them, but I know that anyone who's in the show could watch it and like how they were portrayed. Yeah.
Given that you said that you're playing a character, but obviously you're still on the show as yourself using your own name, how did you determine what aspects of yourself you were going to bring to the foreground and let be part of the show?
It never was like a conscious thing. It developed really naturally, and then we were able to pin it down nearer the end of development, and my character sort of changes in the series throughout, according to when we shot it, but I don't know if you would actually notice that watching it, because we're airing it out of order. I mean, some of it was stuff like, for instance, my character's quite pretentious, and that I wouldn't probably have done in the UK. I think that's something that works well here because of my accent. So people tend to think that that I am cultured, because there's this American perception that people with English accents are cultured, and that's really not accurate. So I would lean into that, and I think it's funny to say really stupid things really authoritatively and pretentiously. And so that is just like an easy joke to be able to make, is that my character says daft stuff as though it's weighty and important. And other things are like just observations that I've made. I think I am an empath, and I think a lot of women are, and a lot of people are just in general. But people who tell you how empathetic and caring they are, in my opinion, are not very caring. They're doing it to get recognition, which is, so my most caring, loving friends just would never identify like that out loud. So for me to be constantly telling everyone how much I care and how I'm so caring and empathetic is just something else that I think is funny that I've noticed. And then just being a loser, that's a side of me. Like, I always talk about my mom being my best friend. That's a side of me. Being willing to humiliate myself. That's just stuff that's there already. But yeah, I would say the pretend, and my character can be really stupid. And that's just an easy comedy trope. I like to think that's not a side of me, but it's probably very easy to correct me.
I also think one of your talents is the fact that you're so good at being an active listener when you're interviewing with people. It's very clear that you're really actually connecting and listening to what the person's saying. What was the point at which you realized in your career that that was a really important aspect of what you were doing within your job?
I mean, you learn it really quickly, because if you zone out while you're filming, you can miss something really good. I actually do zone out sometimes, because when you see a 1-2 minute shot scene of me interviewing someone, I probably was there for about 2 hours, and in that time my brain will have gone, what are you gonna have for lunch? At some point I will have drifted, and then I really consciously bring it back. I mean, not if someone's talking about how they feel bad about their body, or like they feel really anxious and can't sleep. But yeah, I sometimes do zone out, and I bring it back a lot, just as consciously as possible, because I mean, I wonder how therapists do it, but they do it for less time. So maybe, I'm sure they do zone out. I guess I do really like listening to people's problems, and I do think it's really important to listen to people. I notice when someone's not listening to me when they're talking to me. I try to do that in my real life, but I've also had to learn on the job. You just got to focus. It's hard though, because you're thinking about 100 things. You're thinking like, how does this, each scene I go into, I know what I want to happen roughly. I know how I want to steer it. I'm remembering joke ideas that we've already written. I'm remembering 100 different things, and just trying to steer them into topics. So there's there's a lot to think about.
The pieces beyond the interviews that you're doing with the clients, so such as when you go in Miami and you're pitching a different ad of a realistic version of people in Miami, are those pieces that you put together and conceptualize before you're meeting with the client and the person who's part of that episode? Or does it really come off the back of your experience with them?
We would shoot it around the same time roughly, but yeah, we would normally think ahead, but it was different for every episode, and then sometimes we would have an idea for a piece that just doesn't work. Like, I really wanted to do a piece, we were working on it for so long for the anxiety episode, about how in the workplace the emphasis on the employee to look after their mental health and well-being, and not the employer to give them reasonable hours and necessarily healthcare and stuff, so the employer can mess the employee around and be like, oh, but meditate and then you'll be okay. And it's like, can they feed their kids? So we were trying to do a piece like that for so long. And we had this character for me who was like the most capitalist businesswoman who like was just not letting her employees leave. And we had this whole thing with like, it was just so stupid. And it just didn't fit in with Gilbert's story for that episode. So we cut it. And yeah, that was like kind of a shame, but you have to think about what's going to make the best piece. And also I found it hard with this series. Sometimes I'm just trying to make a point and it's like, Amy, shut up. Like, you don't need to make that point. It's just write an article on Medium if you need to get it out there. Like, it doesn't have to be in your show. So sometimes we think of things and they just wouldn't fit. But yeah, I mean, that piece where I'm pitching an ad for Miami that says it's the city that now lets in less than nines. It's not really this isn't helping Livy, the client. We just thought it was really funny and we could connect it in. But yeah.
One of the things that was really beautiful in watching that episode with Livy was when you're also sharing your personal experience, because I think, at least watching it, everyone as a woman has had that experience at some point
right.
in various stages of their lives. And so it felt really important, and it really added to the episode the way that you interjected with your own personal experience of that. Was that something that you had thought you were going to do in the show, or did it really just come out from moments like that?
It was always a mix. Like the network were always saying, we want more of what Amy is going through. We want more of what Amy's going through. And sometimes it's just not possible. Like, it just isn't. I haven't really got that problem. There's an episode coming up with a 9-year-old boy who wants to take revenge on his dad, and we explore revenge and forgiveness. And I don't have any revenge issues, so I'm not really able to connect with him. But with the body image one, I could. And there's my favorite episode, and I think honestly the best episode is the finale, which is about grief. And I've experienced grief and written about it, and I like talking about it. I think it's a very useful thing to be talking about these things in society. And so yeah, so some of the episodes are more personal, and then I'll open up. But Livy's the only one who spun it back on me. She turned around and was like talking about my relationship with my body, and you can't actually see it in the edit, but I have tears in my eyes in the real scene. I didn't see it coming, and it was really moving.
Yeah. I think it's my favorite moment in all of the episodes so far.
Oh, really? Oh, that's sweet. Yeah, I love it as well.
Yeah. It feels like you really took care of the way that you presented people on camera as well, because again, when people are giving themselves over in this way, they're trusting you with something that's really incredibly personal, and they're being very vulnerable with you. Was that important to you from the very beginning of creating the show, that you were going to make sure to, in the edit room, choose those elements and that angle?
Which elements specifically? Sorry.
Just really making sure that it was always showing the best of them and not showing any of the negativity.
Yeah, we always made sure that the client could watch it and like it and feel, that no one really came across badly at any point. There was one client who cried really every scene, and we just cut it all until the end because we just felt like she'd been given this space to talk about her feelings, and it was all coming out, but it felt like unnecessary to show her continually crying. We were like, we want you to, because she's so like strong and amazing in other ways, we just kind of saved that until it felt more true to the scene. So we always like thinking about how they're coming across, but also what do you want to watch as a viewer? Do you want to watch someone crying every scene in a comedy show? You probably don't. So yeah, I'm not sure if I'm really answering your question.
No, you are. It's great.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But that moment was really special. And with Livy, it was also that one of the things I like playing with is being this character who presents as an authority, even though she's not. And I'm always telling people that I'm fine. I'm always sort of coming at it from a high status position of like, I don't have this problem. Maybe I used to. So with Livy, I was saying, I know what it's like to feel bad about my body because I felt bad about my body, but I don't anymore. And it's like, probably if you did feel bad about your body, you just feel significantly better about it now. It's unlikely that, most viewers would watch it and be like, Amy, come on. Like, and she tapped into that. She's the one who noticed and was like, so I like that because she sort of did my job for me. She showed that I'm lying. Yeah.
Given that, you're dealing with real people and it's not a scripted show, so you can only plan so much, are there any unexpected arcs that the show's taken as a result that you hadn't anticipated?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. For the most part, people were just like there to go ahead and okay. So one of the episodes that's aired, I've mentioned this a few times, but I've helped Gilbert with his anxiety, and he just soars throughout. He starts off like
Yeah.
really in a bad place and just soars. So that was heaven. There's an episode coming up this week. I don't know when this interview's going to air, but it's on monogamy, and you just go watch to the end. Oh my god! Because I follow up with all the clients at the end, and it's really nice because we want to know. We assume you want to know. And this couple who are considering opening their marriage, we go on this real journey together where I'm like helping them decide whether to do it, and I'm really helping them. It's a very sexy episode. There's a lot going on in that episode. There's actual porn in the episode. That's my point. It's a crazy episode. Anyway, right at the end, I check in with them, and their story is like, whoa. And that was a real shocker and quite fun. Actually, it's kind of sad as well. But anyway, that one was just a Skype at the end. But one of the episodes near the end, I think the penultimate one, is about shame. And I helped this guy called Kevin, who's not told his family a big secret. He's lied to them about a behavior. And that episode from start to finish was nothing happened that we expected. And it was really near the end of filming. And maybe it was the final episode we shot. And every day was a massive pivot. We'd be filming with him, and he'd drop something in, or someone would react in a way we didn't expect, and we'd have to rewrite everything. And it was very stressful. But I think the episode is great because you watch it and you can see that like we're having to pivot all the time. It's quite exciting to watch. Yeah.
It also feels like every episode really catches a really deep emotional level. So even the first episode that's all about humor, was it Jenny that you're working with? And she just wants to be seen as more funny. Sorry, Laura. And then partway through the episode, you realize that this is actually something that's hugely important to her on a personal level and in her job and the way that she's perceived by everyone in her life. And it was really unexpected. Was that something that you had expected or anticipated, or was it a surprise to you that every single episode went to that place?
I was surprised. So at the time, quite a lot of people knew me already, and one of them, Tyler Hall, who directed and wrote and co-EP'd it, said up front, he was like, people open up to Amy, people tell her stuff. She's the person at the party who stands in like a corner and talks to someone about their problems for like 2 hours, which is true. I like to dance as well. It just never pans out that way. And I was like, people open up to me, it's true. And everyone was like, yeah, but they'd never really seen something like this. And I said, people are going to cry. And everyone was like, I don't think they are. And I thought they are, particularly with like grief or whatever. People cried. I would say 6 out of 8 of the clients cried at some point. It was just, people like need to let it out. Actually, I can only think of one person who didn't cry. I don't think Olivia cried, actually. So 2 people didn't cry. The rest did. And it was a surprise with an episode like Laura's because it's about humor. And we originally thought, let's just have quite a light episode. But I treat it with a lot of weight because to me, not having sense of humor is a huge problem. But yeah, I mean, it's why her story is so compelling. Is it ties into sexism, really. It ties into humor is more important than even I realized. You need to be laughing with people to get people to like you and to connect with them. And this is a woman who's in a very high position of authority who's getting told by men all the time she needs to soften up. So it wasn't really about the humor, and it really came out. But it was a shock, yeah. And I haven't developed that side yet where I'm like, bingo, great TV. I'm just like, oh my God, this woman feels bad. What can I do? Like, it's only later that, and when I'm literally in the edit, that I'm like, oh, that's going to help the episode. Yeah, it's good for us. But at the time, you don't think like that.
With the experiment that you did, where you took a group of twins and you separated them, and you did a presentation and told jokes as a man and as a woman, and the results came back that people find men funnier. Right. I feel like as a woman, that wasn't surprising to me. Have men been surprised by the result of that?
No.
Great to hear.
I don't think a man has said that. Yeah. I don't think a man has said that. I think maybe it's the men I know. I mean, I'm working with men who work in comedy, so they know that the women have a harder time. I'm not sure about the real population. I'm not the type of person who reads YouTube comments. but I would be interested to see what they are. I just won't, because honestly, I could be quarantined. Sorry, there's so much. There's like a boy racer outside. I've closed my windows as well to keep the noise down, but I'm just sweating so much. I'm sorry. I could be quarantined for like a year and I wouldn't read the YouTube comments on my show, but I reckon they're probably quite interesting for that. Maybe I should make an exception.
I think that's a good self-care way to make it through quarantine.
Yeah, like why would you do that? But yeah, they like them out. I mean, it is a stupid experiment. I cannot stress enough that is not science in any way. So no one was like, well, I guess we better write this up in a scientific journal.
Speaking of quarantine, how are you managing to kind of feel very connected to your craft and artistry? Because obviously you can't do what you would usually do day to day right now.
Well, at this point, it's only been a week since we actually finished the edit on Friday the 13th at like 7 p.m, which was sort of around, I was like, oh, I kind of want to leave the office. We actually finished in the nick of time, I think, because no one's on my show's been sick yet. But we are reviewing episodes and doing stuff remotely. So mainly I've been like dealing with the practical post-production stuff. And I've been thinking about it. I mean, there's loads of writing projects I want to do, but it's just, I think last week I needed to just settle in and read the news all day, honestly, try and sleep. So I haven't really thought about it. I think there will be a lot of very creative projects coming out. I'm really interested to see what people do with it, but it feels like it feels early for me to have like an idea. I also am really nervous about benefiting from this in any way. That's something that, you know, like if I was to start like a podcast and it was the most successful podcast, it would make me feel really weird. I don't have that ability. I'm not saying that would happen, but like, you know, it feels odd right now to think about.
Yeah, it's tricky for everybody to navigate right now.
Yeah.
Feeling connected to each other and also what's appropriate.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking time to chat and letting us literally into your apartment today.
So basically my roommate has a better, like a more important job than me. And I know that's not good to say to the union, but she works for a non-profit. I just didn't want to commandeer the flat, so I've done it out of my bedroom. But you can't see the floor, so it's fine.
It's all about the upwards angle right now for everybody. Well, thank you so much. I hope that everyone watching will tune into Amy's show on True TV, airing every Wednesday right now while we're all stuck at home. Thanks again.
At 10 p.m. Thank you so much. Bye.